The new details emerging about the fatal shooting on the set of the movie Rust. The cast and crew providing eyewitness accounts and affidavits to investigators. The weapon reportedly set up by the armorer for the film, but they say it was the assistant director who handed it to actor Alec Baldwin. ABC's Kaylee Hartung has the latest on the investigation.
Tonight, new eyewitness accounts are giving a more detailed picture of what happened in this chapel moments before an up-and-coming cinematographer was fatally wounded on the movie set of Rust.
So was it loaded with a real bullet or one?
I cannot tell you that.
In search warrants obtained from authorities in Santa Fe, New Mexico, the film's director Joel Souza telling investigators Alec Baldwin was sitting in a church pew preparing for a scene. As he practiced drawing his weapon, Baldwin pointing the revolver towards the camera lens. Souza says he was standing behind that camera, looking over the shoulder of cinematographer Helena Hutchins, when he heard what sounded like a whip and then loud pop. A projectile fired, striking and killing Hutchins, then piercing Souza in the shoulder. A cameraman telling investigators there was no video or audio being recorded at that time. An affidavit saying that the gun was one of 3 prop guns set up by the armorer Hannah Gutierrez Reed, and that assistant director Dave Halls grabbed the gun off a cart outside the church, then handed it to Baldwin on set, yelling "cold gun," indicating to everyone there that the prop gun did not have any live rounds, which the AD told investigators he believed to be true. Industry safety standards ban live ammunition from movie sets. Souza telling investigators that firearm safety protocol on set was for Gutierrez Reed to inspect a gun, then Halls, before he would hand it over to an actor.
That chain of command is usually the first AD and the armorer and the actor, and that's usually the people that interact with that gun. But the first AD won't be touching the gun. They won't be picking the gun up off of a cart.
As armorer, 24-year-old Gutierrez Reed was responsible for all weapons on set. 6 weeks ago on a podcast, she described how nervous she was learning her trade.
I kind of just caught on by myself. I think loading blanks was like the scariest thing to me because I was like, oh, I don't know anything about it.
Tonight, the head of Rust Electrical Department calling out the producers in a post on Facebook, writing he worked with Hutchins on almost all of her films and that he believes her death was the fault of negligence and unprofessionalism.
So many questions still about how this could have happened. Kaylee Hartung joins us from outside the Santa Fe Sheriff's Department. Kaylee, the film's production company has said they are fully cooperating with the investigation. But what does this mean for the future of this film?
Well, Stephanie, we just obtained a letter from the film's production company sent to the entire cast and crew saying they are wrapping production on the set here in New Mexico, at least until investigations are over. Now, no charges have been filed yet in connection with the shooting, but the district attorney has said he is not ruling anything out, and we expect to hear from him before the cameras for the first time on Wednesday, Stephanie.
All right, pausing production indefinitely. Thank you so much, Kaylee. For more, let's bring in a Hollywood industry veteran who has supervised guns and ammunition in movies and TV productions for more than 20 years. Larry Zanoff has been the armorer on such projects like Westworld, Captain America, Civil War, and Spider-Man Homecoming. He also works for independent studio services in Los Angeles in their weapons department. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Before we talk about what might have happened on the set of Rust last week, help us to understand the protocols and procedures around handling guns as props. How does it work, and who makes sure it goes according to plan?
Well, the industry standards for handling firearms and blank ammunition on set are actually very stringent. Safety bulletin number 1 dictates all of the actions that we take with firearms and the blanks, how they're supposed to be secured, how they're supposed to be loaded and handled. The prop master and or the armorer are the people that are responsible on set for firearms, and they would have chain of custody the entire time that the firearms are outside of any kind of lockup box or safe. They, of course, interact with the rest of the crew. They interact with the first AD, the first assistant director, which is the most important safety person on the set. They would be indicated to bring the guns onto set by the first AD, whether we were going to use what we call a cold gun or a hot gun on set. Of course, a cold gun would be totally unloaded, nothing in it. A hot gun would be one loaded with a blank and ready to do gunfire. The guns should not get loaded until the first AD directs the armorer to load the specific gun. So the guidelines are there.
The assistant director allegedly yelled out "cold gun" before he handed it to actor Alec Baldwin. Of course, we're still learning more about what happened there on the set, but there are reports that some of Rust crew members walked off the set the morning of the shooting due to a labor dispute, and backups were brought in to replace them. What kind of training do armorers and prop masters need to have, and how much experience do they need to do that job safely?
Well, you know, the movie set is very fluid, and the types of props that are being used change from scene to scene. So you need to have a person that has the correct training on those specific props. So training under someone who is much more experienced than yourself is usually how these individuals progress and advance their careers in the film industry.
And we don't know if it was an actual live bullet that killed the director of photography, Helena Hutchins, but can you explain what is typically used when shooting a scene with gunfire to make sure that it looks realistic but that no one is injured?
Sure. Safety guideline number 1, which again governs all firearms and blank ammunition on set, clearly stipulates that no live ammunition is allowed on a television or film set. What we use are blanks. There will be smoke, there will be a muzzle flash, there will be an audible bang sound to it in order to simulate the gunfire, but there is no projectile in a blank that can go flying downrange.
And then, of course, there's editing that could be done in post-production to give that effect of live fire as well. Now, there are reports that 3 days before Alec Baldwin fired the gun that shot the cinematographer and the director, another gun had gone off on the set. Is that unusual? And as the armorer, what do you do if that happens?
Well, there's really only 2 ways that you could have a firearm go off like that. One would be, let's say that the firearm became damaged in some way. It was mechanically unsound. In that particular case, if the gun went off when it was not supposed to, the armorer and prop master should immediately pull the firearm off set, have it inspected, make sure that it was mechanically functioning correctly, so that that kind of thing should not happen on set. In other words, guns going off accidentally is very abnormal. The other way that it goes off when it was not intended is if the operator pulls the trigger at the wrong time. Then that becomes a matter of training. So you would pull that particular actor or stunt person aside and say, hey, look, remember, these are the safety protocols. You're only supposed to pull the trigger when you're given the specific cue for doing the gunfire.
Some in Hollywood have called for an end to using live guns, and even one TV show, The Rookie, on our network, ABC, has ended the practice. Why not end the use of live guns if there are other ways to get that effect on film?
Well, I think actually the reason is that there is no other way to get that effect on film in a truly believable way. Obviously, something went terribly wrong in this particular incident. It needs to be investigated. Law enforcement is investigating right now. And when they come out with their determination of exactly what happened, I'm fairly confident that we'll see that the actual industry guidelines were not being followed.
The investigation into exactly what happened on that set will continue. We know that the production of the movie has been put on pause. We'll be watching it. Larry, thank you so much for your time and for your insight.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.